Clive Campbell, born April 16, 1955, better known by his stage name DJ Kool Herc, is a Jamaican American DJ who is credited with being one of the founders of hip-hop music in the Bronx, New York City, in 1973. Nicknamed the father of hip-hop, Campbell began playing hard funk records of the sort typified by James Brown. Campbell began to isolate the instrumental portion of the record, which emphasized the drum beat the break and switch from one break to another. Using the same two-turntable setup of disco DJs, he used two copies of the same record to elongate the break. This breakbeat DJing, using funky drum solos, formed the basis of hip-hop music. Campbell's announcements and exhortations to dancers helped lead to the syncopated, rhythmically spoken accompaniment now known as rapping. He called the dancers break boys and break girls, or simply b-boys and b-girls, terms that continue to be used 50 years later in the sport of breaking. Campbell's DJ style was quickly taken up by figures such as Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash. Unlike them, he never made the move into commercially recorded hip-hop in its earliest years. On November 3, 2023, Campbell was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the Musical Influence Award category. Biography. Early life and education. The front of 1520 Sedgwick Avenue, where Campbell lived with his family and threw his first parties. Clive Campbell was the first of 6 children born to Keith and Nettie Campbell in Kingston, Jamaica. While growing up, he saw and heard the sound systems of neighborhood parties called dance halls and the accompanying speech of their DJs, known as toasting. He emigrated with his family at the age of 12 to the Bronx, New York City in November 1967, where they lived at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. Campbell attended the Alfred E. Smith Career and Technical Education High School in the Bronx, where his height, frame, and demeanor on the basketball court prompted the other kids to nickname him Hercules. After being involved in a physical altercation with school bullies, the 5%ers came to Herc's aid, befriended him, and as Herc put it, helped Americanize him with an education in New York City street culture that he began running with a graffiti crew called the X-Vandals, taking the name Kool Herc. Herc recalls persuading his father to buy him a copy of Sex Machine by James Brown, a record that not a lot of his friends had, and which they would come to him to hear that he used the recreation room of their building, 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. Herc's first sound system consisted of 2 turntables connected to 2 amplifiers and a Shure Vocal Master PA system with 2 speaker columns, on which he played records such as James Brown's Give It Up or Turn It Loose, Jimmy Castor's It's Just Begun and Booker T, and the MG's Melting Pot, with Bronx clubs struggling with street gangs, uptown DJs catering to an older disco crowd with different aspirations, and commercial radio also catering to a demographic distinct from teenagers in the Bronx. Herc's parties, organized and promoted by his sister Cindy, had a ready-made audience. The break. DJ Kool Herc developed the style that was used as one of the additions to the blueprints for hip-hop music. Herc used the record to focus on a short, heavily percussive part in it, the break. Since this part of the record was the one the dancers liked best, Herc isolated the break and prolonged it by changing between 2 record players. As one record reached the end of the break, he cued a second record back to the beginning of the break, which allowed him to extend a relatively short section of music into a 5-minute loop of fury. This innovation had its roots in what Herc called the merry-go-round, a technique by which the DJ switched from break to break at the height of the party. This technique is specifically called the merry-go-round because, according to Herc, it takes one back and forth with no slack. Herc stated that he first introduced the merry-go-round into his sets in 1973. The earliest known merry-go-round involved playing James Brown's Give It Up or Turn It Loose, with its refrain, Now Clap Your Hands, Stomp Your Feet, then switching from that record's break into the break from a second record, Bongo Rock, by the Incredible Bongo Band. From the Bongo Rock-esque break, Herc used a third record to switch to the break on The Mexican by the English rock band Babe Ruth. Kool Herc also contributed to developing the rhyming style of hip-hop by punctuating the recorded music with slang phrases, announcing, Rock on, my mellow. B-boys, B-girls, are you ready? Keep on rock steady, this is the joint. Herc beat on the point to the beat, y'all. You don't stop. For his contributions, Time nicknamed Herc the founding father of hip-hop, called him nascent cultural hero and an integral part of the beginnings of hip-hop. On August 11, 1973, DJ Kool Herc was a disc jockey and MC at a party hosted by himself and his younger sister Cindy at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. She wanted to earn extra cash for back-to-school clothes, so she decided to throw a party where her older brother, then just 18 years old, would play music for the neighborhood in their apartment building. She promoted the event with flyers and organized the party. She also styled her brother's clothes for the party. Herc in 1999 holding James Brown's Sex Machine album. According to music journalist Stephen Ivory, in 1973, Herc placed on the turntables 2 copies of Brown's 1970 Sex Machine album and ran an extended cut-end mix of the percussion breakdown from Give It Up or Turn It Loose, signaling the birth of hip-hop. B-Boys and B-Girls. The B-Boys and B-Girls were the dancers to Herc's breaks, who were described as breaking. Herc has noted that breaking was also street slang of the time, meaning getting excited, acting energetically, or causing a disturbance. Herc coined the terms b-boy, b-girl, and breaking, which became part of the lexicon of what would be eventually called hip-hop culture. Early Kool Herc b-boy and later DJ innovator Grand Mixer DXT describes the early evolution as follows. Very body would form a circle and the b-boys would go into the center. At first the dance was simple: touch your toes, hop, kick out your leg. Then some guy went down, spun around on all fours. Everybody said wow and went home to try to come up with something better. In the early 1980s, the media began to call this style breakdance, which in 1991 the New York Times wrote was an art as demanding and inventive as mainstream dance forms like ballet and jazz. Since this emerging culture was still without a name, participants often identified as b-boys, a usage that included and went beyond the specific connection to dance, a usage that would persist in hip-hop culture. Move to the streets. With the mystique of his graffiti name, his physical stature, and the reputation of his small parties, Herc became a folk hero in the Bronx. He began to play at nearby clubs including the Hevelo, now Salvation Baptist Church, Twilight Zone, Executive Playhouse, the Pal on 183 Ardee Street, as well as at high schools such as Dodge and Taft. Rapping duties were delegated to Kokla Rock and Theodore Puccio. Herc's collective, known as the Herculoids, was augmented by Clark Kent and dancers the Nigga Twins. Herc took his sound system, the Herculoids, still legendary for its sheer volume, to the streets and parks of the Bronx. Nelson George recalls a schoolyard party. The sun hadn't gone down yet, and kids were just hanging out, waiting for something to happen. Van pulls up, a bunch of guys come out with a table, crates of records. They unscrew the base of the light pole, take their equipment, attach it to that, get the electricity, boom. We got a concert right here in the schoolyard, and it's this guy Kool Herc. And he's just standing with the turntable, and the guys were studying his hands. There are people dancing, but there's as many people standing, just watching what he's doing. That was my first introduction to in the street, hip-hop DJing. Influence on artists. In 1975, the young Grandmaster Flash, to whom Kool Herc was, in his words, a hero, began DJing in Herc style. By 1976, Flash and his MCs, the Furious Five, played to a packed Audubon Ballroom in Manhattan. Venue owners were often nervous of unruly young crowds, however, and soon sent hip-hop back to the clubs, community centers, and high school gymnasiums of the Bronx. Africa Bambaataa first heard Kool Herc in 1973. Bambaataa, at that time a general in the notorious Black Spades Gang of the Bronx, obtained his own sound system in 1975 and began to DJ in Herc style, converting his followers to the nonviolent Zulu Nation in the process. Kool Herc began using the incredible bongo band's Apache as a break in 1975. It became a firm b-boy favorite, the Bronx national anthem, and is still in use in hip-hop today. Stephen Hager wrote of this period. For over 5 years, the Bronx had lived in constant terror of street gangs. Suddenly, in 1975, they disappeared almost as quickly as they had arrived. This happened because something better came along to replace the gangs. That something was eventually called hip-hop. In 1979, the record company executive Sylvia Robinson assembled a group she called the Sugar Hill Gang and recorded Rapper's Delight. The hit song ushered in the era of commercially released hip-hop. By that year's end, Grandmaster Flash was recording for Enjoy Records. In 1980, Africa Bambaataa began recording for Winley. By this time, DJ Kool Herc's star had faded. Grandmaster Flash suggests that Herc may not have kept pace with developments in techniques of cueing, lining up a record to play at a certain place on it. Developments changed techniques of cutting, switching from one record to another, and scratching, moving the record by hand to and fro under the stylus for percussive effect, in the late 1970s. Herc said he retreated from the scene after being stabbed at the Executive Playhouse while trying to intercede in a fight and the burning down of one of his venues. In 1980, Herc had stopped DJing and was working in a record shop in South Bronx. Later years. Herc spins records in the Hunts Point section of the Bronx at a February 28, 2009 event addressing the West Indian roots of hip-hop. Kool Herc appeared in Hollywood's motion picture take on hip-hop, Beat Street, Orion, 1984, as himself. In the mid-1980s, his father died, and he became addicted to crack cocaine. I couldn't cope, so I started medicating, he says of this period. In 1994, Herc performed on Terminator X and the Godfathers of Threats album, Super Bad.in 2005. He wrote the foreword to Jeff Chang's book on hip-hop, Can't Stop Won't Stop. In 2005, he appeared in the music video of Top 5, Dead or Alive, by Gene from the album The MC's Propaganda. In 2006, he became involved in getting hip-hop commemorated at the Smithsonian Institution Museums. He participated in the 2007 Dance Parade. Since 2007, Herc has worked on a campaign to prevent 1520 Sedgwick Avenue from being sold to developers and withdrawn from its status as a Mitchell-Loma affordable housing property. In the summer of 2007, New York State officials declared 1520 Sedgwick Avenue the birthplace of hip-hop and nominated it to national and state historic registers. The city's Department of Housing Preservation and Development ruled against the proposed sale in February 2008 on the grounds that the proposed purchase price is inconsistent with the use of property as a Mitchell-Loma affordable housing development. It is the first time they have so ruled in such a case. According to the source, DJ Kool Herc fell gravely ill in early 2011 and was said to lack health insurance. He had surgery for kidney stones, with a stent placed to relieve the pressure. He needed follow-up surgery, but St. Barnabas Hospital in the Bronx, the site that performed the previous surgery, requested that he make a deposit toward the next surgery because he had missed several follow-up visits. The hospital noted that it would not turn away uninsured patients in the emergency room. DJ Kool Herc and his family set up an official website on which he described his medical issue and set a larger goal of establishing the DJ Kool Herc Fund to pioneer long-term healthcare solutions. In April 2013, Campbell recovered from surgery and moved into post-medical care. In May 2019, Kool Herc released his first vinyl record with Mr. Green.